Welcome to Resist With Joy podcast, where we amplify the voices of everyday people and empower our listeners to engage, show up, and become the policy shapers of tomorrow. I'm Tina Marie.
I'm Martina. We want to dive into some news from the week that touch on us and make us think, and we hope you will dive with us into the news of the last few days. Well, it was really flat. Anyway, I'm going to dive into it now. What do you got today?
A bit of good news I want to start off with is I found a home for the little kitty, the itty bitty cutie kitty. I'm so happy it went to people I know or pseudo know. It became a relative of a local musician. She decided to take the kitty up in Waimea, and I handed it off to her, gave her the history, gave her videos and such, and she was so happy. She named it Akamai, Akamai, Akamai. And it kind of means smart in Hawaiian, and the kitty is so cute. She sent me a few updates on it, and the kitty is just thriving in its new home. So I just wanted to give a little update that the kitty found a home.
Yeah. Just within a week, you solved the problem. Super.
Oh, and his mother came back, by the way. His mother came back with a clipped ear. So she apparently had gotten herself fixed. I know other people in the neighborhood fixes the cats as well as I do when we have time, but that's probably why the mother went missing for a week, is she got fixed because she came back with a clipped ear. So no more babies for her.
Yeah. That's great news. Thank you for sharing that. And Akamai, we're going to keep track of you and maybe get some updates along the way. It's our podcast kitty, at least for now.
Little mascot. Don't tell Bella, she'll be jealous.
Well, we are in the final week of the primary here in Hawaii. And Tina Marie had a really good idea to talk about closed and open primaries. Just from an educational standpoint, it doesn't really matter at this point here for the 2026 primary in Hawaii, but an overall arching educational aspect is for the podcast to talk about how government works, how elections work. So take it away. What is the difference between a closed and open primary? Actually, start out with what is a primary?
I'm so glad you asked.
I always think people actually don't know that. I didn't know that years ago, but at some point I picked up on it. So maybe start at the beginning.
So primaries is when each party picks their top player. So those top players go head to head in the general or midterm elections in November. So right now we are in the primary season for voting, and we have to get our ballots in by August 8th. And I really, really love Hawaii and how they do elections, because you can either mail it in, which today will probably be the last day to mail it in to get it in on time. They also have secure drop boxes around the island, so you can actually drop it off at a secure drop box by 7 p.m. on August 8th. Or you can do in-person early voting, which I actually ended up doing the other day. I happened to be in Kona, and I was driving past the Civic Center, and I thought, you know what? I'm here. I'm just going to go in and vote. And I don't know, I felt like the strong urge to just get it done and do it in person. I didn't have to. I have my ballot sitting behind me, which I have to throw away now, but I just decided to go in person. So I voted.
Yay. So let me just clarify. You can go to the Civic Center here on the west side of the island, and you just walk into that office. You say, I'm not registered. I can register then right now. And then you get a ballot. Is that how it works?
Yes. Hawaii actually has same-day registration. So you can go ahead and register to vote the same day that you go in to vote if you did not receive a ballot. Even if you received a ballot and your ballot goes missing, it gets damaged, you filled out the bubbles incorrectly, you can go in, fill out a form, and, reaffirm that you're not going to vote twice. And they will check if you vote twice, and they'll invalidate your voting, by the way.
But everything? Both ballots will be invalid? Okay,
yes.
So don't make that mistake. Okay, very cool.
So if you vote in person or you vote by mail, do one or the other. Don't do both. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they make you fill out like a little yellow sheet with your information. And then they have like little statements that you have to mark. Yes, I'm a citizen. Yes, I'm old enough to vote. Yes, I'm not going to vote by mail, yada, yada. Then they give you your ballot to go ahead and fill it out. You can fill it out electronically, where they have a computer in there to make your selections, and then it prints out a ballot, or they'll give you a regular paper ballot. It's very easy. And they check your ID, make sure your ID matches what's on file when you register to vote. And then you just go in and vote, and then you scan it through the machine.
But did you mention the signature? That has to match too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. So when you fill out that little yellow paper when you go in person to vote, it'll match what's on your ID. Mm-hmm. If you do a mail-in ballot, you still have to sign it. And whoever does the auditing is going to have to check your signature against what's on the records.
Fantastic. So you voted already. I still have my ballot here too. I will do that too. I usually go by the end of the week, and I will go there in person and drop it into the secure mailbox. I will not use USPS for any of that. Do it in person. Yeah, this is really good information.
Now, the interesting thing about our primaries is when you actually go to register to vote, you do not have to choose a party affiliation, even though Hawaii is a closed primary state. When I lived in Arizona, it was also a closed primary state, but when you registered to vote, you had to fill out your party affiliation, and you would only get your ballot associated with that party. So because I was a Democrat in Arizona, I only got the Democratic primary ballots. Here in Hawaii, though, even though it's a closed primary state, they don't require you to fill out your party affiliation. So what they do instead is they give you a ballot with everybody on it. But the first thing you have to do in the primaries is you have to select which party you're voting for, and you can only fill out candidates that fall within that party. So if you choose Republican, you can only vote for Republican candidates on that ballot. If you choose Democrats, you can only vote for Democrats on that ballot. If you vote for a Democrat in one race and a nonpartisan in the other, your ballot becomes invalid completely.
What do you mean with the nonpartisan? Nonpartisan is nonpartisan.
Yeah.
So they still say someone is running for nonpartisan county council, but is coming from the Republican side. But you said, I'm Democrat, or I want to vote for the Democrats, and then have filled out Democratic candidates, the one I like the most. Okay. We're diving deep tonight, guys. Today, we're diving
Literally diving deep. I did fill out my ballot, but I did not send it in, and I can't send it in. But here's what it says. It has your party affiliation right over here. So you have to choose whether you're a Democrat or nonpartisan. My council member is nonpartisan, so I could still vote for that and make my ballot valid. But there are specifically like governor races, the U.S. representative and the lieutenant governor. There are people that are nonpartisan.
No, they're partisan.
No, they're nonpartisan. So there's a nonpartisan portion on the ballot right here. And those are all the people that are there. And then there's also like up here, there's a nonpartisan option when you choose your ballot. When you choose your party, I should say. But yeah. So like the council member is nonpartisan anyways. So that's just nonpartisan for everybody running. But for things like the U.S. representative, the governor, the lieutenant governor, people have, it's not a nonpartisan race, but people can run as nonpartisan, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So because county council is a nonpartisan race. So you can only run as a nonpartisan, which means you can vote for them even if you're a Democrat, Republican, what have you. But for people who run in a race that you do select a party, you can run as a nonpartisan. So that's where you would choose nonpartisan as a political preference and only vote for nonpartisan candidates. But because if you choose like Green Party, Republican, or Democrat, you can only fill out candidates within that party. Except for county council, which is a nonpartisan race, anybody can fill that one out. Now, what I like about this voting process, though, is because you do not have to choose a political party when you register to vote, you can vote for Democrats in one race. In the next race, you can vote for Republicans. And the next one, you can vote for nonpartisan. The next one, you can vote for Green Party. So you're not single-handedly married to one political party throughout your entire voting history. When I lived in Arizona, if you wanted to change your party affiliation, you had to re-register to vote and change your party affiliation so you can get the proper ballot.
Now, these are the stories when we think of, it's like when everybody says the two parties were doing the same thing and like locking in the people that they have in the electorate. These are the stories that I now understand why people used to say that or still say it. The rules are so restrictive sometimes on the Democratic side or the Republican side or other parties too. Within each state, it's different. And that's really confusing because the statement that both parties are the same, maybe it applies to, because I have 50 states and every 50 different rules and about closed or open primaries and et cetera, et cetera. You cannot actually make this general statement. Actually, you can make the general statement. Both parties do the same in this specific case of trying to lock in your electorate. But then in our state where we live in Hawaii, it's actually well done that you can switch without changing a registration.
Exactly.
So all these nuances, it takes time to understand them. I maybe have heard that 2 years ago, but I forgot about it. But now I'm more deeper into this subject matter, and it makes a lot of sense when you tell a story, having lived in a different state. I mean, you lived in 3 different states, right?
Yes,
You came from
Illinois, Arizona, and now Hawaii.
That's right. Yeah. I've only been here. Coming from Germany, it was so easy to vote in Germany, and then in Hawaii, it's pretty easy too. Yeah. So I never had to overcome obstacles. That's why I couldn't understand the system. It's so different everywhere. Big country.
And I was actually registered as an independent from the ages of 18 until 2016. Because I didn't understand primaries. I was a doofus, and I didn't understand how important primaries were. But then when Bernie Sanders was running against Hillary in 2016, in order for me to vote for him, I had to change my political affiliation to Democrat. So I was able to vote for him in Arizona in 2016. Since then, I was just, understanding the differences between Republican and Democrats and how one party keeps trying to take away our rights and turn us back into 1900s. And the other one doesn't do that, but they also don't fight hard enough to prevent that from happening. Yeah. So people like us who are progressive want to get in the fight to push against the fascism that's happening. And we're the ones that are being the movers and shakers. And we're the ones that are going to take the Democratic Party and turn them from do-nothing Democrats to doing something Democrats.
I just came up with a new label for me. You just said we're both progressive. I'm a German moderate.
Which is basically the same thing.
Ask me what that means and I explain it to you. But in Germany, everything is so centrist. What we're talking about being progressive is centrist in Germany.
Yes, it's normal. It's centrist in most other nations.
And we will get there. I think there's so much happening now. I listened to a really interesting podcast of someone who for 30, 35 years used to be in a Republican Party. He left in 2016, but he's the guy who the joke is eating numbers for breakfast. So he's always been in polling and consulting in campaigns. And he's really good about reading polls, but also internal polls, because every candidate has internal information too and how they react to it. And there was this really good example about Michigan and the primary that is happening on Tuesday the 4th about a really progressive candidate, for me, a German centrist, but progressive for America, and against another candidate, and how the establishment is just fighting so hard to get into this, to get the established person, which means, give Israel more money. It's like just genocide is not a problem. It's like this narrative from this candidate against the other one. And when they look at numbers and how his name is Mike Madrid, who's really good about looking at numbers and how everything is shifting. And his specialty is actually the Hispanic vote for 30 years and how many things are shifting. He said, everything that's happening right now is ahistorical. So I'm just, we will keep fighting for the right thing, that America at some point, maybe in 20 years, doesn't have that label progressive anymore and just say it's centrist again.
Human rights.
Because, human rights, civil rights, our rights are above the government. That's liberal democracy. And I spoke to someone the other day and he's like, why are you doing all this stuff? It's like, well, I'm fighting for the form of government that I lived all my life and I don't want to lose it. And it's about my rights are more important as the individual than what the government wants. And this is what we see with the Trump administration. They're just trying to make the state the more powerful. And we are fighting as citizens not to lose that. So
now I want to talk about open primary states and the difference. I know California is an open primary state, or at least it was the last time I checked. And the arguments for that is that anyone who's registered to vote can vote for anybody to be on the top position. And the top couple, 2 or 3, I think, depending on the state, will go head to head in November. Now, some people argue that the downside of that is sometimes you'll get 2 nonpartisans as the top, parties in November. Sometimes you'll get 2 Democrats. Sometimes you'll get 2 Republicans. And my counter argument against that is, well, if you're going to get 2 Republicans and you're afraid to get 2 Republicans as the top 2 people in November, maybe you should turn up in the primaries and vote for the better people.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Or maybe the candidates should run a better campaign. I would be in favor of an open primary myself, only because this way you're not locked into voting for a single party in the primaries. You can vote for whoever you want. I would also be in favor of ranked choice voting. Like, I would love to rank some of these other people in the governor's race or in the lieutenant governor's race, but we don't have ranked choice voting in the primaries, unfortunately. So I think that would be another benefit to people to be able to choose who they want to vote for.
Yeah, there are many solutions. We just have to implement them. And that has always been the problem since I entered the country. I'm like, why are you not making progress? Because there's so much obstruction to hold on to the old, the traditional. And when 2026 now, I'm always looking around. It's like new ideas need to come up. Let's do this. New ideas, not only talk about it, implement them. And I read this really cool book and I listened to many interviews by Brian Tyler Cohen. He's saying, the day after, how we need to wield power. He says how the Democratic Party has to wield power because in the system of government, how it is. But it's really coming down to us citizens demanding all the change we want to see. Like now 13, expand the Supreme Court, for example. That's one of the first things he says. Let's change the Supreme Court to expand and have term limits because we can come up with the best legislation. We can do all these things through Congress. And then some dud comes up with a lawsuit and then wiggles itself to the court system from the district to the appellate court to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court says in the Second Amendment, what there was written, there is a comma or there's no comma, whatever happened there. And that's why, it's this and this ruling comes out of it. I mean, it's just preposterous, it's like, and so
look at Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, these are all these examples that we really experience now. And I think Roe v. Wade was really experienced by most Americans, but we didn't know what to do with it because that happened in 2022 and we still put the Republicans back in power in 2024. That is just so twisted in the brain for me.
And people blame Biden for Roe v. Wade being overturned, which makes zero sense to me because who were the Supreme Court justices that voted in favor of overturning it? They were all appointed by Republican presidents.
That's right.
And a single president cannot overturn a ruling by the Supreme Court. That is going to require heavy legislation to overturn it. So we need 2/3 majority of Congress to codify abortion rights. And then 3/5 of the states' governments need to codify it as well and accept it before it becomes an amendment in the Constitution.
Yeah. And time goes by, and all these things happen in between. Everything's a timing problem. And then I listened to a really good interview too. And have you heard of Ben Wikler? He came up with a really good book. He used to be, I'm sure you know about him, in Wisconsin. There used to be so red and it was like a desperate place of like autocracy in the state. And Ben Wikler was then the chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. And it took him, I think, 7 years and grassroots movement. And then they switched legislator, one, the House blue, then the Senate blue. I mean, there's so many things that can change because of the grassroots work. And Ben Wikler is, I think, maybe running for a Senate seat in Wisconsin sometime soon. And he has a clear plan. He had an interview with Heather Cox Richardson this week. And he was saying by 2032, we might be in a good place if we do all these things. So he has a real plan. It's really, really cool to listen to. And it was funny, Heather Cox Richardson, who writes these nightly newsletters, she's like, yeah, I really like this approach that I know how much longer I have to write these newsletters. It's like, because it's this work for pro-democracy. And she is such a key figure in this educating the masses. Yeah. I looked it up the other day. It's just like 3 million followers on Substack. And I think 2 million on Facebook and 1 million on YouTube. She is the one, she's one of the big parts that I just listen to everything she does. So yeah, it's a lot of things are happening. It will take time. And I'm going to put all the links into the show notes, how you guys can watch this video or just check on the book. And, there's future thinking.
Maintaining our democracy and overturning fascism is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. We have to be in it for the long haul.
Is that it for the primary?
That's it for the primaries. If you have questions, let us know.
Yeah, ask her. I usually just ask questions myself about this process. Still catching up on a lot of things when it comes to details, the nuances, open and closed primary and all that stuff. But very interesting. Thank you for that. You had some other stuff you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I had another topic that top of mind for me this week. University of North Carolina Health is starting to transition to a bid shift staffing starting October 2nd. So basically what this is, it's like an auction to bid for shifts. Now, if you go to a normal auction, the highest bidder wins whatever is being auctioned. But nurses are bidding for the lowest cost per hour pay in order to receive a shift. So it's the opposite. They're basically bidding to get the lowest rate for actually working, which is diabolical to me. You think nurses, in that area are going to be bidding to receive lower pay in order to get a shift? It's diabolical.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what is the status of this? Is this an idea or it's already in implementation mode? And is that coming through the legislator or is it just a corporate policy from this health insurance company?
I did not read that far into it. As far as what I know, this is something that they have announced a transition to do a bid shift staffing model. And I think that this is just their decision and they don't need like legislation or anything to do it. So yeah, it's something that I would encourage you to go read up more about, but you can just type in UNC Health bid shift into your search engine and you can go ahead and find the information. But I came across somebody that was talking about it and I was like, that's messed up. You're going to be bidding to get the lowest pay in order to work?
You know, what comes up in my mind is like pitchforks. It's just like, I want this. I take a pitchfork. I want this, and it's putting groups against each other. That's one of the hallmarks of fascism, the other people, the other people, make them angry. What's going on I don't really care what's going on with the other people, just keeping us, fighting each other. And it's just so messed up because it just also feeds into this, let's break even more how we can make money. We, the little people, how we can make money, right? Or make less money in this case. What a messed up concept.
And this just supports what I've been saying for years, is that if companies could pay you less, they will. They will find every reason to pay you less or give you less benefits or give you less vacation time or no vacation time or anything, because their only goal is to the shareholder at this point, to make the shareholders money. So they're going to cut corners, cut quality, cut services that you need that made their company great to begin with. And they're just going to pay people less in order to cater to their shareholders who, let's face it, are rich as fuck and don't need more money.
And it is the capitalism that doesn't work. I saw something because you said something about hourly wage and wages, AOC was asked about this communism narrative that the Republicans are pushing out.
I saw that.
We're all going to be communists, right? AOC just started laughing. She's like, communism? Are you kidding me? You cannot even change anything about the minimum wage ain't happening, and it's really this educational phase here in the country too. What communism actually means, or socialism, in the meaning of a form of government, right? And I was just being from Germany so much closer to a country that was run on socialism, which was East Germany until 1989. That's when the wall came down. And then we reintegrated East Germany into West Germany, which is run as a liberal democracy with capitalism. But the government is pretty strong because the citizens, like unions and all, they are really strong to work for the people. And communism, it's back in the Soviet Union, see how it worked out for them. Then they lost, the Soviet Union got busted in 91, I believe, just dissolved. And then Russia came, and now Putin and all his thinking of being an emperor and how much damage he does to the world. Communism doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. Capitalism works if you have a strong government to protect the people. And that's what you can do in a liberal democracy. And we're just teetering on this right now because our federal government is a messed up group of people. They're really just all the stories that are coming out and the cruelty.
I think in order for us to work, we need a strong balance of socialism with capitalism. I just want my tax dollars to be used as safety nets for people who are falling through the loops that capitalism made. For instance, I don't want to tell people that they can't make money, that they can't own a business, but I also would like people who aren't able to own a business, I want them to be able to have food, shelter, and medical care. That's the least that everybody should be getting with our tax dollars, is they should have a place to live, clothes on their back, food to eat, and medical care. It's the baseline requirements for survival, and everybody should have that as a human right.
And I'm going to teach you a new word. It's a German word. It's called Soziale Marktwirtschaft.
I'm not even going to try.
Soziale, social. Markt is the market. Wirtschaft is the economy, which is, we want to have a socialized market economy, which is capitalism. The markets and the capitalism and how the markets work, let the best survive with the best ideas. That's the business that come to the top. And if they mess up, they can fold and go bankrupt. But if you put the word social before that whole system, it's a social aspect of, or you approach everything through the social lens. People should have basic health insurance, enough to eat and shelter. And that's how I grew up. So it's really hard for me to follow any kind of thought process here in America where people just question that. It's really a better system to live in, to grow up in. And I'm sure America will catch up on that because there's so much talk about it these days and so much education happening.
Yeah, it's basically the idea that, we're not advocating for everybody to have a mansion. We're advocating for everybody to have a safe place to live. Anybody could be a millionaire, but nobody should be poor, that they can't afford basic necessities to live.
Yeah. Here we go. Soziale Marktwirtschaft.
Sure.
All right. Is this a wrap with some German vocabulary at the end?
That's
Is there
a wrap
anything
for
else?
me.
So we had an update on the kitty and we talked about primaries and different ways of how governments can work for people and should work for people. And so I'm glad we connected again today. I hope everybody enjoys the week. We're back next weekend and with more news and things that the two of us think about. Thanks for joining. And Tina Marie, you do that so much better. Hit the likes and all the things. Talk to you later. Aloha.
Aloha.